Hello, Chris. Happy New Year, and hello, everybody at home. Happy New Year to you too. It is time for a monthly dragon. This is the good news. There's also sad news, of course. There is a new Dungeons and Dragons movie coming up, and it wasn't filmed in Sicily. They had their
Oh,
chance. It's unbelievable, right? What do you say?
I didn't know any of that,
I
actually.
actually just came up from the top of my head to just make a little
Okay.
joke. Anyway, Chris, what
Yeah.
what
Happy
is
New Year.
Happy
I
New
don't know
Year?
if there's a deadline for when you're allowed to say that, but let's say Happy New Year to everybody. And hopefully we're going to continue. Is this only our third? Is it our third one?
It feels like it's the 30th. It's just the
It
third one.
feels like we're doing it for a long time. Anyway, I've got some dragon action for you again, based on
Excellent.
most recent activities in the dragon.
All right.
Essentially, then, well, let's have the dragon down here at the bottom. So, what's going to happen is I'm going to take you through a main game but also I'm going to branch off to a little small reference of a game which you'd say isn't maybe the best quality, but features quite a lot of typical dragony type mistakes.
Oh,
It really caught my eye when I watched it. I was thinking, oh no, please don't do that. Don't do that. But it was both sides that were doing that when they shouldn't be doing that. So anyway, so we're going to crack on. And the main game, though, features a Peng Li Min, who basically is a GM, and playing. I don't know if you know this, but so handling the black pieces as a young FIDE master, rated over 2400. Is it Maritz Weischatel? I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
I'll just pronounce it correctly for you. It's a Weissheutel, but I have never.
Weissheutel.
Yeah, how shall you ever know? I mean, this is like one of the craziest names to ever pronounce. It looks written even difficult, but yeah, I don't know him. He's probably from Austria, or
I think he's German,
he's
actually.
German.
Yeah. So anyway, the game was from
south.
the Bar Open, and it was played right at the very end of the year.
Ha.
Just as we're about to move on to 2023. Anyway, with further ado, let's get into it. And we have, yes, normal dragon move order here. Let's just whiz through this. Mm-hmm. And white playing the Yugoslav attack, F3. And black casting Queen D2, Knight C6. So we're all happy here. All happy here. And I think our previous two editions have mainly featured 9 Bishop C4 as the main move here. But we crack on with castles, which is probably the most popular one of them. Yeah, certainly these days, the most popular one. Bishop C4 tends to be the sharper one.
You're a little shaky, Chris. Oh, now it's good. Okay,
it was okay. I'm shaking. I'm getting into the swing of things.
I know. Yeah, it's a very exciting position. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty much used to it. So what happens here is we have black. I could test you if I wanted to. Here.
Yes, please.
What do I consider to be black's best move in this position?
I think it is E5.
Close. D5. I think that's what you meant, actually.
Yes, exactly. So, that's what I meant.
Yeah, it's these coordinates. Let's call it pawn to queen 4. Right. So here we go. D5. And then white plays a very fashionable variation here, which is swapping off the knights, playing bishop H6. Now, of course, you'll know the main line as being white can play queen E1 here as one of the of lines which avoids a lot of theory, but other than that, we tend to have pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, knight C6, BC6, and then white plonks the bishop on D4, looking for simple swaps and ultimately to play against these isolated pawns here. That's where we see most of our practical encounters from this position. But this is a line which has become very fashionable recently, which is taking on C6 and then playing bishop to H6, as white pretty much makes it clear they like to get on with a bit of an H-file attack straight away, and they don't care too much about what's happening elsewhere. Now, let's just talk a little bit about this structure here. As a result of swapping off the knight on C6 and the pawn back here, black has got a nice centre, and black has been given a half-open file to which to maybe to attack on B2. On the other hand, on the other hand, this pawn has the chance to go to E5, which will budge that knight, which is obviously one of the key defenders of H7. Now, this is the line we're going to talk about. But now I'm just going to go back a move and show you another game which caught my eye. Now, I don't want to be too harsh at all because it was two kind of 1900 players online. This is playing, and it was a 5 minutes plus 3 seconds encounter. So you're going to say, Chris, and they were young, and all the excuses. Oh no, not excuses. I mean, perfectly acceptable thing. Now, so what actually happened in this particular game after castles was black played bishop d7.
Okay.
So bishop d7 was played, which is another system. It's mentioned in, of course, the DVDs that I discussed. So essentially, black is clearing the way for rook c8. The knight's going to come to a5, and the queen will go to a5. Knight to e5, and the queen to a5. What black is not obviously going to do is just go there and facilitate doubling the rooks, because then white will essentially have gained 2 tempo by not moving their bishop to c4 and back to b3. So it's a possible system. I wouldn't say it's my favorite system, although I have played it in the past.
Okay.
So black played bishop d7, and now white, who I happen to know plays that little system that I just showed you about, decided to take here, which shows complete confusion, expecting d5, taking on c6 and bishop h6. And this is one of the dangers, of course, of playing parrot fashion style chess. Oh. Now, which way should we recapture on c6? I'm not going to ask you on, I'm just going to tell you. How's about that? So we should recapture here, really, with the pawn.
Huh.
So the idea of recapturing with the pawn in this position here means the pawn is now controlling the outpost on d5.
Okay.
And black has automatically got a little bit of action for the rook on ba. The queen is undoubtedly going to swing over to a5, and there's going to be some attacking possibilities against these pawns. Again, the pawn on c6. However, it's not completely uninstinctive. I like to use a lot of double negatives, of course, to take on c6. And if white was castle on the king side, and we were going to have a classical type variation, you think, well, that's going to help white black expand. It's not a bad square for the knight. It covers the d5 square. It's all looking hunky-dory. But one of the problems with this is that the bishop does get in the way of the rook on c8. So there's going to be less swift action on that file here. So this is how the game went. White then quite predictably carried on with their bishop h6, probably thinking they were still following this other line with d5. And black brought their rook to c8. And white still plan A, h4, fairly straightforward. We know going for this swift attack. And black played the move queen a5. So both those moves, there's some quite natural looking attacking developing moves.
Certainly.
Now here was where I'm slightly critical of white's move. White now played g4. But my point is, you don't g4, although that might be a useful offensive move, of course, it's a bit slower than just playing h5 straight away.
Okay.
So after h5 straight away, let me highlight then just how things could go wrong if black was to take the pawn. And presumably one of white's ideas for g4 was, well, when I go h5, you won't be able to take that pawn. But we know, of course, the idea of going h5 is to open that file. So if they take it, all the better. So knight takes h5. So let me show you just how dangerous this suddenly is. So even here, g4, knight f6, we do know that the bishop is, of course, controlling this square. So if the knight tries to come in here, well, let's keep going with the obvious move, the check, king here. But the point is here, although knight d5, the bishop can take it, a very strong move is bishop d3.
Oh.
Now, the whole point is, as we're going to see in a second, the whole point is that white is planning to essentially go g5, and when the knight comes to h5, sacrifice the rook there, and then go e5, and then the bishop from d3 will be attacking h7. And this is a really, really important theme. So let me show you, even if, for example, black now was to try to stop that,
then it's f5.
Now knight d5 would work, because after bishop takes, then we could go g5, the knight has to go to h5, then sacrifice the exchange, then takes back, and now again, as I just mentioned before, this is pure curtains along this
time. That is not good for black.
And remember, of course, if the king tries to do a run here, it's no good, because the king won't get to escape, of course, because we'll get bishop here, and then the queen will come down here for this little checkmate here. So my main point is, of course, therefore, that you don't need to play g4 if you can just play h5 straight away. Because if you're going to take on g6, you might not have to have it. Now, I'm not going to say that makes it redundant, no, but it's just that little bit quicker.
Can you quickly maybe just how to defend for black the best against h5? There are probably a couple of moves, but what is the best defense here?
Yeah, but don't forget, I already think black's gone wrong.
I see, I see, I see, I see. Okay, yeah,
So I think
I
White's
see, I see.
attack is quicker here because of this whole taking on c6 with the bishop, then moving into
Oh,
rook to a half open
yeah,
file,
yeah,
which
yeah.
has got pieces blocking in it. So this is why, obviously, when you play the dragon, you're on a bit of on a bit of an edge already,
I
basically, a
understand, I
knife edge
understand,
already.
I understand.
So there are some, there's some possibilities to do a little bit better, but there, I think taking on h5, going down that obviously was bad news all the way. Really.
Sure, absolutely. Okay,
But
good.
now White makes an error now by going g4 because that's a little bit slower. And in this game here, Black played bishop a4. So obviously the idea now is finally Black has got this rook lined up to where we like it. Yes, to c2, but also, which is slightly unusual, having c2 within its sights because the bishop isn't normally there. But certainly to the little exchange sack on c3 that we're all familiar with. And now White came through, continued with h5, and Black responded with b5, which is again too slow. And of course, we all know it should be time to sacrifice the exchange on c3. The idea being the queen can't even recapture on c3 because we're going to win that bishop with check over here. So it has to be with the pawn. Then we can lure the queen away. And then all of a sudden, this is a different matter. Perfectly good exchange sacrifice here. Threatening checkmate. This one here. That's serious compensation. And of course, it's not so easy for White to do the checkmate. So Black played b5 and White took on g6, f takes g6. And now to point just how dangerous and swift this is. White basically just misses a forced win here. Taking this is absolutely fine, then giving the check. Now the g pawn does get to come into play with g5. Of course, we're still attacking h7, so the knight has to block on h5, really. There's no time to play rook takes c3 here. Knight h5, and now rook takes h5 should be played. And these moves were played in the game, but not rook takes h5. But just to highlight, this is going to be checkmate. We're threatening queen takes h7 checkmate. And if they take queen take, oh, look at this. Can do the queen takes g6 first, but bishop c4 is even a swifter way of doing, giving up the bishop. Why? Just so that you can activate the rook on the king side, and then a nice little dinky repeat of checks so that you can get that rook checking, and then a little checkmate here.
Oh, that is so brutal.
So this is a really important theme. So the idea is, we might have seen Black doing some nice checkmates in the game so far, but obviously there's plenty of ideas for White as well. And Black needs to be familiar with those ideas, so obviously to avoid them. Because I would imagine the number one reason, if you said, why don't you play the dragon? Some people don't play, they say, well, because I don't like getting checkmated quickly. But if you can avoid that happening. Now, actually, incredibly enough, what happened in the game, Anna, was in this position, White decided time for a timeout to go rook d2 instead of sacrificing that rook on the
I think I understand, because look, if okay, wait, can I quickly ask, there's no, you said there's not there's not,
because it's always mate on h7, but so rook takes c3, you don't so well, we can see, I can sense why they tried to do a defensive move, but often in the dragon, if you're the one making the first defensive move like this, you think, oh, something could be a little bit wrong. And now that certainly finally gave time for Black to do the exchange, which a lot of juniors don't like to give up that, because that's giving up a rook for a knight, and a rook's worth 5 points and all the rest of it. But suddenly we can see that queen gets to a really, really impressive
I was actually just wondering why we cannot sacrifice, but we can actually, yes.
Now we do sacrifice, certainly after rook d2. So now, of course, the queen's threatening mate on a1, for example, here. And then, for example, the game continued rook h2, queen here, check, king d2. And this should really be massively, massively in Black's favour now. It should. I mean, White's not even threatening rook takes h5 because of the mate on c2. So this is brilliant. But just to show you just briefly how it could even go wrong here in this position, Black played rook takes f3. And my number one top tip is to look out for checks. And all of a sudden, Black could have lost their queen. But you know what? I think that's pretty much, we should stop looking at that game. That Black did win within a few moves there, but what a topsy-turvy game. And it was just, when I looked at that game, I thought, I can't believe that game. There was so much to it. It was absolutely incredible. So anyhow, So first things first, we're back to this d5 line, and I suspect what black had intended was to play this system against d5, but they got all confused, bit of parrot fashion, did it against bishop d7, and actually, funny enough, it did work for a while until, yeah, anyhow, here we go. So now back to this one, very fashionable system here. And black takes on h6, which is not forced, and queen takes h6. So this is a hotly debated variation at the moment. As I mentioned before, we have the white's looking for a simple h-file attack, but and of course e5 is going to be available to budge the knight. Now, a recent try by black, which I've been spending a little bit of time looking at, is quite a logical move, which was as played in the game, which is to play e5, preventing the white pawn from going there. But if I can give you just a couple of highlights of the other another move, which is really quite important. Alternatively, if black, for example, tries to get immediately on the case on the b file. So the idea is white plays e5, knight d7, and now there's essentially two ways to try to deliver checkmate. One is with the usual razzing of the h pawn down the board, and another is with a little rook swinging idea.
Ooh.
So there's two different ideas, but the most important theme of this to really remember, particularly from a black point of view, is that after h4, knight takes e5 and h5. So we can see suddenly this is looking very dangerous down the h file, and the knight has found itself on a different square from f6. So there's no defending here going on. But a really key defense in this situation. I know you could maybe, well, we can't even do it here, but in different situations, you can go g5, giving up a pawn. You can't do that here. You're losing a knight. But bishop f5, this is the theme which is really important. So the bishop offers the chance to defend laterally, but this is the idea. After g4, attacking the bishop, black can play f6. Really nice, important thing. So the idea is, if the pawn takes on g6, we're still available to recapture and defend with our bishop. And if they take the bishop here on f5, then this lovely move g5 completely incarcerates the queen on h6.
That is
and up next,
so cool. She's gone.
And up next is knight f7 to actually trap that queen on h6. This is a really important theme for black to get to grips with.
That is awesome.
But of course, it's not there yet. So what actually has to happen is after white plays h5, bishop f5, g4, f6 is of course necessary for the white queen to retreat itself. But just because it's come back, it doesn't mean, or just because it's retreated, it might be able to return there a little bit later. So, for example, after bishop d7, h takes g6, is looking to come back to h6. But here, for example, black has a very simplifying idea, queen b6. This time around, attacking the queen here as well as here. And the idea is, and this is really neat, by the way, here. If black, so what would you be thinking about with white here? White can either take on h7 check with the pawn and then swap queens, or advance the queen straight down to h6 to be continuing.
Well, this is exactly what I'm thinking. Is this really a big threat on b2, or is it enough of a threat? And there's the knight coming in, but maybe white just gives a piece or two and escapes with the king, and then it's checkmate nonetheless.
Yeah, brilliant, Arnold. Well, let's have a little look. So let's first of all then have a look at queen h6. Yeah. So the idea is it's a bit of a fraud, really, but the idea is to take with this, take here, check. The king goes there, no more checks, except the knight can just drop back to g5 and defend h7. And then the white king looks like a little bit of a lemon in the middle of the board there, to say the least. So I think I know which position I'd rather have in this here. So we're defending h7. So the only other alternative really is to either swap the queens, stroke, take on h7 first. And then after, in this position here, this is absolutely fine for black. Temporarily a pawn down, but these are attacked. This one's going to be one, and black's got a nice little pawn structure in there. So, essentially,
Sorry, can I quickly intervene with one last idea? Maybe you can quickly debunk it. What about instead of the move from the position earlier, knight, bishop to f5? What about queen d6?
Oh, offering a bit of lateral defense. One thing you mustn't forget, though, is there is the chance that this knight might enter the equation on e4.
Thank you.
And
Okay,
then from
yeah.
e4, there's g5 as well.
That's already it. That's already it. Thank you. Okay, good. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
So,
perfect. Thanks.
yeah, we get, but well, I mean, it was definitely worth noting there. But anyway, bishop f5 is fine for black,
Yes.
except right. So the thing, of course, which are the other line which I mentioned, which has also become quite important to learn, is after rook b8, or to understand the rook to d4 rook swinger, because that in itself is quite dangerous. But it would appear after rook e8, then the black knight is now looking to defend on f8.
Ah.
But then white can throw a little spanner in the works with e6 at the moment, knight, and then bishop d3, definitely teeing up a little sacrifice here. So, for example, if black played knight f6, then it's pretty clear that white could take on g6, take check, and then slide the rook over to h4 for a dangerous little checkmate. But after knight f8, it does appear that black is laterally defending okay, and there's no real sacrifice down here because
my
can
goodness,
run away with the queen nicely. Importantly, should I say, actually, stopping a check on f4. So that's one of the. So there's an alternative variation, but this has a certain appeal to it, and this is the move that was played in the main game that we're actually looking at. So let's just again pause here and have a look. So black has got quite an attractive pawn center, you'd have to say, and black has that half-open b file. And also black's starting to put a couple of fixed pawns on e5, on dark squares.
Yeah.
And of course, it's nice to have your bishops on the opposite color from your fixed pawns. So where do we have problems? Well, there's still a little bit of pressure in the center of the board here with the knight, the pawn, and the rook. And this is, I don't want to use the word loose exactly, but you can see how potentially something could be a little bit awkward. So this is the game that's played here, and I've looked at this before on the chess publishing site, where, as you know, I annotate some games, and also I mentioned this in the DVD. And we tended to look at the ideas where white just went for it with h4. I think if white plays bishop c4 to put pressure on the center, then black can just advance that pawn anyway, attacking the knight. And the idea is the queen is going to be moving soon in any case. And if white plays h4, by the way, then usually what can happen is the queen can always defend laterally here. So that if hg, black can always take back with the f pawn, and of course the white knight is under attack here. So I think these positions are okay. But here we had a move which was played basically for as far as I can see, only the second time it's ever been played. White here played g4. And this kind of fit into the theme. So this is a GM playing this move, of course, and a slow play game of chess. But again, I think it's a little bit slow. And that fits in with my same theme I was talking about in that other little reference where white played g4. So I think it's a little bit slow, this move. But still, we can see why it's being played, why it's bringing into play the concept of g5 to win that pawn. Let's talk it on d5.
Yeah.
If white can ever get a knight to f5, that's also a kind of a handy way to have the pawn here, so you can recapture with the g pawn and get some things going on along the g file. So g4 was played, and black therefore responded with d4, which seems like a very logical move, attacking that knight on c3. But of course, the pawn on d4 is pinned at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. White doesn't have to move that fancy knight, so probably g5 is the next one, right? Or
okay, yeah. So So the thing about g5 is, though, don't forget, if you go g5, you have to be a little bit careful that you're just not incarcerating your queen. That's a possibility. In this particular game, well, actually, I only found two games. There's only one other game, which is in this game, white chose to play the move knight a4. But on the grounds that the knight's probably going to have to move somewhere. So the knight went to a4.
Whoa.
And of course, there's potential. This is the main game. And the other game I found, which was quite amusing, and this is really, I found something it's amazing when I start looking at these little lines, I find something really funny. So this is the other game. So white played knight e2, which, to be fair, might fit in with your plan, because with the knight on g3, the knight will be covering h5. However, of course, you're abandoning your own defenses. And king b1, this is a nice game. Queen a5 here, attacking a2. So white played b3. And black now decided, right, I've got to get to grips with this structure here. Played c5. So the simple plan is to go c4 and either bash through this square or go c3 and queen a3 and deliver checkmate on b2. Queen to g5. So again, we're still in a little side reference here. We're not back to the main game, but these little references.
Sure, no, it's so much fun. Of course, absolutely.
Queen g5 attacking the knight and the pawn on e5, and knight d7 deals with both of that. Then h4, so both sides attacking. c4. In this particular game, White decided, I think I better try and stop that, offer a swap of queens. And Black says, no, there's not going to be any queen swaps today. Queen to c1, and then rook a b8.
Oh, yeah, and then the knight goes in, and then we have enough on b3.
You're absolutely, you're absolutely right. But I'm going to show you something because it's so amusing. So h5 here was what I played, and then you just said, I think you're a natural dragon player. Right? I haven't even asked how you got on in your little tournament playing the dragon, but I'm assuming brilliantly. Now, so h takes g6, f takes g6, and now White says, no, it's my turn again for action. Queen h6, threatening f. Black says, no. I'm going to defend that, a bit of lateral defense.
And
the queen's so the queen comes to e5, attacking the pawn, and you got it, of course. Knight takes b3.
Beautiful.
And the end to this game, I don't even understand it really. White basically offered their queen for nothing, and Black said no, I'd rather do checkmate instead, which is obviously fair enough. Because it's double check, it's going to be queen takes a2 or queen a3 mate. But what I want to show you, this is so funny.
Yeah.
C takes b3. I came across this. This is brilliant. If White had just accepted the offering, I mean, you wanted to sack the piece, and presumably you wanted to sack this next piece.
Obviously.
Quite right. So the idea is Black's, by the way, threatening checkmate with queen a2 and queen c2, as well as a multitude of other ways, and check. And then check here, and then check here. That's checkmate. So basically, this is a nice little checkmate how the game could have ended. The game ended nicely. We've got more of that to come, so we're going to crack on with the move which was played in the game, which was knight a4. I'm loving some of this stuff. So knight a4. So now Black, a multi-purpose move here. The Black queen came to e7. Why has it done that? First of all, it's unpinned the d-pawn. Secondly, it's covering the c5 square. And thirdly, it's offering a little bit of kind of like lateral defense, as well as maybe springing out to that attractive-looking b4 square.
Can I, sorry, I don't want to stall this, but is there, because I'm always thinking of sacrificing, is there ever a good time, or was there ever a good time to sacrifice? Yeah, exactly. Get the knight.
Okay, it's like I'm a mind reader, isn't
it? But it doesn't help at all, right?
Well, don't forget, I think the idea usually, I mean, there's definitely worthwhile considering those bishop takes g4 and either knight takes g4 or knight takes e4 move. But I think the idea is pieces are pretty good things to have, really. So unless that's going to come to something, no, I didn't. That sounded completely condescending. I didn't mean for it to.
Pretty correct what you're saying, though.
But you're only actually getting a couple of pawns there. That's part of the problem. And then the point is, even if you get your knight to e3, you're attacking a rook. But if you win the exchange, then you're getting a rook and 2 pawns for 2 pieces, which is already a bit nervy. I mean, a lot of people add up, a rook and 2 pawns, that's 7. A knight and a bishop, that's 3 plus 3. We know it doesn't necessarily work like that. And in the opening, the middle game, minor pieces, generally much better. If it led to something really good, I'd go for it. But you're absolutely right to keep those ideas in mind. I mean, the amount of times, for example, I've had ideas where I've sacked here and then won a pawn here, which is, and then you might get 2 or 3 pawns for it as well. So do you know what? As these monthly dragons come up, we're bound to come across those sort of sacrifices on us. So it's good to have those in the locker. That's what I say.
Yeah,
so the queen came. The queen went to e7 and White played b3 here, offering, a little bit of support to the knight, potentially a retreat square, cover to the c4 square, but still giving away some holes, not undeniably. Bishop e6 develops the bishop, challenges for the c4 square, and in this particular game, so this is where we're going to get some more fun. In this game here, White played queen g5. Kind of saying to that Black queen, you better not be moving away because I'm going to be attacking your e5 pawn and your knight on f6. But I want to look at h4 because this is super duper fun. Okay, so queen check, no problems. King b1, and then rook fb8 for reasons. For reasons that have become clear. Not because you think you're going to be doing something necessarily with the rook, but because you're vacating the f8 square if need be. Now, so let's have a little look at this. So the idea is here. If White, we're obviously threatening queen takes knight on a4, So let's have a look at a couple of lines. So if, for example, to highlight that, White played knight b2, we could see Black swiftly advancing the A pawn, white
Looks
advancing.
slow, but it's probably quick enough. Yeah.
So we're both getting down there. They take that, and then we take this. So it did look slow, like you said, but now it seems black's got things, but also white's got things. But look at this. Pawn takes h7. We can't go king h8 hiding behind that pawn because queen takes knight is mate. But what we can do is run our king away. Nice. And there's actually, in fact, the king is going to absolutely run away. There's nothing but a couple of checks. And meanwhile, back at the ranch up here, there's going to be checkmates around the white king. So, and that position, rook f8. But we're not done. We're not done. Because we want to look at h5. This is so amusing. So queen takes knight, h takes g6, so f takes g6, g5. So we've seen how definitely if that knight goes to h5, white will take that in a second and pick up the bishop with check and countless checks and bishop.
I see it.
It's May. It's just bad news. So, but of course we say no. Yeah, I'm going to do the Arna sack on b3. Yeah, we do the Arna sack on b3. So
reputation is going quicker than you could.
So there we go. So we're defending mate again on 2. So white has to say, yeah, I'm going to take that back. Rook takes b3, and we're going to see. This is where we see something which is so amusing. So here it's pretty clear. If you take on b3. The queen's going to take and go to c3, and then the rook will come to b8. You know, I don't need to put all these moves on the board. We can see it's going to be a simple mate with the 2 rooks. But let's look at king c1, which, and I'm thinking I was thinking, we should be able to deliver mate here, or just a sequence of checks to deliver mate. But there's something which is so funny, which is queen a1, king b2, queen c3 check. So you can understand if the king runs over to here, there's, queen e3's mate for starters. That's always a handy one. So king c1. But the amusing thing here is, how do we actually deliver mate? And we deliver mate by doing this. This is lovely. Rook b1 check, and you're thinking, well, what was the point of that? You're just replacing the rook with another rook. But of course, now you have the option to go queen a3 check, which you didn't before with a rook on b3. And now you can slide your queen over to e3 checkmate. That is just amazing. That is just brilliant, isn't it? Really?
Okay.
So who would have? Now, normally that's the sort of one where you think, when you could do that rook to h8 and queen h5 and queen h7, but you think, I can sacrifice double rooks just because I'm showing off. But in fact, this isn't showing off. It was necessary to deliver the checkmate. So this is it's just amazing. So basically here. So anyhow, now we're back to reality and the real game situation, which was played, which was queen g5. So I'm still liking black's position. He's got these pawns fixed on dark squares in the centre, and he's got a light square bishop. He's covering this knight over here. The game goes queen a3 check, king b1, and then the knight drops back to d7. Yeah. So there's a few useful ideas behind that. Obviously, he's defending the pawn, he's defending the knight, and of course, potentially the knight could come to b6 to look to open up this file here. So knight d7, and then queen back to c1, offering a trade of queens. Well, but of course, don't guess. We're not going to take those queens. Don't worry, it's not going to be anything like that. Well, I can see why that might have to happen, but let's have a little look. Supposing he played h4, let's just play some moves. Knight b6, knight b2, a5, h5, and then here we could just use that simple f6 defense because, of course, if he goes to h6, he gets
it's so important because those moves are so naturally for you how to defend those positions, and it's really important to get some confidence in this opening because the attacks are, as you mentioned already, always there, but there's always those certain systems which you're also teaching on the DVDs fulminantly, of course. Those moves with f6 or trapping the queen and all of that, all those patterns like checkmate patterns, how to defend or how to
well, my idea is hopefully the listener's going to pick up all those patterns just as I forget them all. So let's just look at a little variation here. Queen to c1, and I think just basically we're going to see it's going to be horrendous checkmate down there. I mean, let's keep going with these. These are look at this. Is just it's just checkmate everywhere you go, basically. So queen c2, bishop rook a1. You can give up your rooks and then do the other checkmate.
Exactly.
So not that you need. So quite a lot. So the game played queen c1. So don't forget, this is not fantasy. This is real chess we're looking at. With the white piece as a good GM, 25, 20 odd GM, with the black piece is 25, 24, 20, up and coming young B-Day master, Queen C1. Now, I think if we were to swap off the queens here, I don't think black really has any advantage. He's got the good pawn structure, but white can try and break with C3, he can blockade on C4, and more to the point, he's still eyeing up the C5 square. So no great surprise. Black says, no, we're keeping the queens on the board. And now white goes for his H4 attack. And, well, so here, where do we go from here? I think one of the sneaky ideas, if black plays C5 to go here, then Queen A3 might be a little bit annoying because it's pinning the pawn to the queen on A7. So, but black continued with the knight B6 plan, which looks perfectly good idea. Because after all, what does white do with his knight? Well, it's not really a great selection here. He either takes on B6 or he runs back to B2, and so after which black can go A5, A4 anyway. So he chooses to take on B6. A takes B6, and now of course we're up and running with the A. We're up and running the A file. Now this, I have to say, this game. We've got entertainment still to come, but the wrong way as well as the right way. So now white decided, well, what am I going to do here? He played rook h2 so he can prepare to offer a little bit of lateral defense. So what he's hoping to do, I think, is to go. He's still got ambitions down the h file, but that's not really going to be that good. But he's maybe looking to go c3 or c4 to offer some help here for when black doubles or trebles the major pieces down the a file. For that reason, actually, I quite like the idea for black to play queen b4 in this position. So the idea is that white can't literally move that pawn because en passant, he's just going to lose it. So I quite like queen b4 here. So, for example, if white did go c4 and think that they were going to be able to win that battle, we know that move is just begging to be played. Yes, so that's not going to happen. Please. So instead, well, white-black played rook a3, which, to be fair, is a completely natural move. Simply looking to get the rooks going on the along the a file. Although I have to say, I also think black should be looking to go b5 to challenge this and open up that bishop along that diagonal. But I think the queen b4 move would have been particularly good, just stopping c4. But rook a8, doubling up, but at the moment that's defended enough times. Although we can see other pieces like aka the queen looking to treble up at some stage, and white played the move rook b2. So basically it's all hands to the pump for the white pieces. And actually, I have to say, to be honest, probably overall, if black's just looking to win this, suddenly change of plan and to win this game risk 3, you should have just taken that pawn on h4 and said, well, thanks very much. That's very generous of you. I'll take that pawn.
I'll take this one.
But of course, maybe some say, do I need to take that pawn? Am I giving him an open h4? Am I giving him some compensation?
I probably also wouldn't take it. So
so you wouldn't take it. So either way, black in this game said, no, I'm not going to take that. And he played b5, which again I think is a perfectly reasonable move. So he's looking now to blast open that diagonal towards b3 and a2. White played g5, so there's no chance to take that pawn anymore. But black's descending, his pieces are moving in the right direction here. And now white played f4. So white's obviously trying now to undermine this, but also looking to maybe get some sort of action with this f pawn down here. Black, queen a5, this is it. So now we're trebling on a2. We're threatening to take on a2. And white has to do something about that. I think if it tried to defend it with the rook here, well, that would have left the queen looking like a lemon, and we could just definitely have taken that free of charge, and then white's not doing anything. Can't take on d4, remember, because he would need to be defending with his second rook on a2. So white plays queen d2. And actually, again, I don't want to be the party pooper, but I think this just taking the queens, taking here, taking here and going here should be a winning, probably been a winning rook and pawn endgame, because you're potentially going to get absolutely dangerous a mass of pawns on the king side. So probably should do that. But at the moment, black's still thinking, no. I don't want to swap off. I don't want to swap off the queens. So there's a bit of caution associated with this game. So now white plays h5, still plugging on there. Black says, okay. B
Aren't we
takes
winning?
C.
Yeah, isn't this another pawn
Well, it
winning
looks
then?
as though it's winning, but now suddenly
Yeah.
H takes G6, and suddenly we're thinking, well, wait. I
Okay.
know you think, well, that's pinned to that. C3 might, but then Queen H2 is threatening mate down here on H7. Not so straightforward anymore. So White thinks, well, I'll take a little time out because obviously I can defend laterally if need be along here. And now White plays F5, still throwing the cat amongst the pigeons. Black says, I don't really want to. It's like if I take that pawn here, then that will come down there, and then the queen's gonna. I'm not so sure about allowing that white queen into the game, and the rook is sliding over. So he says, no, I'll just drop my bishop back to F7. And now the queen came over to H2. So even though Black's won a pawn here, this is, of course, still pinned to the queen on this square here. And White's got some offensive ideas and is, of course, including attacking that pawn on E5. Well, Black says, don't worry, I've got D3. It's all like everything's under control here. Don't worry about that, because then C3 is coming in. There's taking on B3 is coming in. It's all looking good. But now White plays bishop takes D3. You think, well, what are you really getting there? C takes D3 and rook H1. And suddenly now White's got one or two of his ideas of his own.
Earlier, yeah. This bishop, if it moves away with the check or with a very good move, then you open the line for the rook, and then there is the checkmate threat again.
Yeah, so basically, of course, we haven't got this defended anything laterally at the moment, and that will be a check, and that will be a check, and then the rook. So it's not really ideal to let that white queen descend on H7. So Black says, "Don't worry, I've got all this under control. I'm going to shut that out." And now White says, "Okay, well, I'll take that." And now the problem is, although normally you think that's okay, I'm hiding. You're not really hiding, because H7 queen takes E5 will be checkmate. So you need to be controlling that diagonal towards H8. So Black is still a piece up, but it's now, it's not quite so clear. So here Black played Queen A5, protecting the E5 pawn. So notice Black's having to take the odd time out here himself. So, and now F takes G6, and we're thinking, oh my word, what is going on here? These pawns are looking a little bit dangerous. He takes on here, and now the queen came down to H3, and all of a sudden this queen is looking to invade on E6, and then there's checks on the G file or checks here, and there could be a checkmate down there, which isn't really what Black was hoping for. So Black now dropped the queen back to A7 to offer a little bit of lateral defense again, and after H7 check, decided, yeah, I better not be taking that pawn on H7, tucks the king into the corner. But now Queen G3, hitting the bishop, as well as, of course, of the pawn here, but Black has got the defense queen over to G7. And Queen did come to G7. And here, fortunately for Black, White made a little bit of a boo-boo. So what the game actually went like this. The game actually went Rook G1 with White ganging up on that. But after this move here, Black was able to play D2, offering a nice little
beautiful
deflector. If the rook takes the pawn, then bishop takes pawn. You
always look at this check, yeah.
And of course, if queen takes G6, we're going to get a new queen down here.
That's going to be good too.
So unfortunately, that was absolute curtains. I mean, the game ended King A1, Rook D8, and very simply pushing that pawn to the end of the board, Rook D1, and now, of course, it's completely gone because, well, he's just simply a whole piece down. However, if instead he'd played the other rook to the G file, that leaves this rook still on the duty of stopping this pawn, and he is literally threatening to take this bishop here. So, for example, we could have seen this, queen takes, very simple, and actually in a complete turnaround here, I think probably the game's still a draw, maybe, but Black is the one fighting for the draw. That's funny. So it just goes to show what a fine line things are on. I can only assume that the Rook G1 double question mark move here was probably played in a bit of time trouble on move 38, and that's the problem. You have these complicated games. You have so much to think about during the game. You use your time on the clock, and that was done. But it just goes to show it was so close to being a really, really lovely game by Black. And in the end, it was a game definitely worthy of including in our update, but it could have gone so horribly wrong right at the end there. So, yeah. So how could I not have included that game in an update? That was
beauty, absolutely, yeah.
And that's it, really. So in the end, knight. Oh, let's just see. In the end, let's just have a look at the game. Actually, in the final position, rook takes b3 check. That's kind of a fitting end to the game here, really.
Very
So
nice.
it's going to be the queen takes, he loses the queen. The pawn
Yeah.
takes, we descend down there on, well, queen a1, king c2, rook a2, checkmate. Let's just pop that on the board here so we can see this. Queen takes here, check, queen here, king here, and then rook checkmate.
Yeah,
Nice
and
end
the
to the
pawn
game.
on e4 blocks the last
Yeah,
hiding
no
spot
running
for the
out to
king.
d3. No running out to d3. So there we go. Yeah, so
It's
great stuff,
it's
really. So
amazing. Yeah. It's so nice because the whole time, like in this, so particularly interesting is for me that I wouldn't. Is this an endgame? Surely it is already, right? I mean, there's little to no pieces left, and
well,
but
that's
but
yeah, the definition of an end game. When people say, "What is an end game?" Well, when there's not that many pieces.
but it is this pattern of the dragon for the certain end games is also often similarly, like the attack on the sides and those patterns. Because in the last 10 moves of this very particular game, you think of everything, of every sacrifice. Does this work? Does that work? And all of that. Beautiful. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that there are so many available, and the rapidly accelerating time limits we play these days isn't really helping the dragon player quite properly. Because
True.
you can see then some of these games, they miss things along the way, which
It's
could have seemed
harder
so
to
beautiful.
defend. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously then you can also miss the attacks. For example, in that little blitz game that we saw. So hopefully the listener will have picked up a few things then. So we have that theoretical main line of taking on c6 and going on bishop h6, but not against the bishop d7 move. And yeah, please take on board some of those things, and I'll be looking forward to coming back next month for another offering.
Looking forward to this. Of course, you can see this whole game with the analysis in the article on the ChessBase news site. The link is below the video on YouTube. Thank you so much, Chris, for doing this, and we will see each other soon again. Bye-bye.
Take care, Arden. Bye.